Hey, it's Djemini. Welcome to the 5225 podcast. I'm here with the third producer of the year, Julian Villa. I'm so proud of the songs that we have made, and I'm excited to tell you a little bit about the backstory and for James and I to share how we made these songs and cool stories from when we made them. So, James, I'm going to flip it over to you to kind of talk about a little how we met, how we started working together, and then we'll dive into the songs.
Yeah. I had known about you for a while because I started seeing like the Just Upon roll out, and obviously I'm good friends with Sal. You're working with Sal. He's an amazing guitar player and
Legend.
Producer, so we'd already connected, and so I saw he was doing that stuff with you, and I was seeing like the visuals that you had, being like, damn, like the marketing is on point, and like just seeing like some of those pictures made me like curious to go listen to your music.
Cool.
And then in turn made me be like, what do I need to do so that someone sees a picture and wants to go listen to my song? Like,
Yeah.
So like that, I
cool,
knew that you
man.
had this good like visual energy. I didn't know at the time that you were like, you know, doing a lot of that stuff yourself and had the capabilities of making those cool visuals. So I think like I listened to your music, I really liked it. And later down the line, like I was looking for someone to do visuals, and I was like, wait a minute, like
There we go.
I like how you do stuff, and you're also a musician, so you understand like a bit more than just like the picture, but like the brand and the artist and stuff. So yeah, that was fun working with you on that first photo shoot.
Yeah, that was, I think it was like 1st of September, if I'm not mistaken.
Beginning of September, right before I released that first album with
Totally.
Grizzle Man.
Yeah, and we got a whole bunch of photos and other visuals and things to kind of help bring that to life, and then I had an absolute blast shooting that show. That debut show for that album was man, I loved that. It was so fun just capturing you in the band doing your thing, just bringing the whole record to life. That was a blast. And then right around that time of your show was when I started to solidify what this whole year was going to be. And as I was working on more tracks with Nick and Jay over the summer, it was like, whoa, I'm starting to see what this year could be like panning out. And I had just been such a fan of your songs through Death of the Grizzle Man and hearing other work that you had done that I was like, dang, like I think James and I could do something really cool. And then Mackenzie was also saying the same thing of like, yeah, I want like you and James to do something and everything like that. And I was kind of just like, okay, cool. So the more that I thought about it, I was like, this could be super rad. And so then we got together and we were kind of just like testing the water to see how it was going to go. And after that, then we got the clarity of like, okay, this is really what we want to do. And the first song we made was a race, but I think we'll break it down to the order of the songs and how we have them, and just starting with Let Me Go. And curious to like what your recollection of that song was, because that one was very unique.
Was that the second one?
It was, and that was the one that was like we made in like no time. We almost like didn't talk because you were just like so focused cooking, and I would just hear like brrr, writing the whole thing almost start to finish, and then I like sang it to you, and you're like, that sounds great. But yeah, I'm curious to hear like how what your memory. What
that was it
made you that?
Because I think like it's interesting doing them out of order because the context of the order is kind of important too. Like the fact that it was second, and like I really love what we did with the first one.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of pressure on it where I'm like, is this gonna be as good, or like am I gonna deliver in the way that I just delivered? The way that music happens is so like natural, but also like sometimes you have to like really like work at it to like find the thing. So like my feeling going into it was like, oh, I really want this to feel like as organic as the first process that we had, and I just like want it to flow, but I also don't want to put too much pressure on it, like because I knew that getting into making this with you, like you had very like intentions of being like creative and like non-perfectionist, and like let's see what happens, like totally, you know, like it wasn't like this is exactly what it's gonna be and like gotta do this. It was like, no, like these songs will be out there in like 2 months, like let's cook. And that was really exciting and also terrifying, right? You know, but like as soon as I got on there, I just basically plugged in the baritone guitar that I've been playing with a lot because it's my new instrument that inspires me. Oh, cool. Plugging it into the thing on the desk there, the chroma console, has some weird effects on it, and to start playing some chords and things like that. I think actually right before that I was on the keyboard. No, it was on the keyboard first because I was like, let's start the song with the keyboard so we don't do the same thing again.
Yeah, we talked about that. Just some of the references.
I sat with some random chords and then I played a couple of the patches and you were like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool. do a little fun progression with that like nice kind of Juno sounding pad, and then you were kind of chipping away at some the top line things, and I was like, okay, this is working. Just keep it rolling, and that one's kind of a blur.
Yeah, I don't really. It's so quick.
I think like some different layers and melodies happen. What? I'm like losing my like mind of like that. Whereas, because all of these songs happen in like the span of 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
So my brain isn't like remembering each.
Yeah. And what I'm bummed about that one too, what I was gonna bring, and we can watch it another time, but is the behind the scenes of each of them, and that we can watch them. And I was gonna bring it today, but I just didn't get to trimming all of it down because there's so much footage. But I did unfortunately lose. It was my mistake. I lost all of the Let Me Go footage.
Yeah.
And I had mentioned that to you, but I was like, out of all of them, was the best one to lose because there was like very little back and forth. It was just James absolutely cooking. And then I was just here like a psycho, just like, and just writing this entire song as he was just so in the zone. And so I think like that was one that I'm like, okay, the process on that was so quick that I remember singing that to you, and then you were kind of like, oh, that sounds good to me. And then we just started tracking it right away. And then the song really kind of took shape as we started laying down the main lead. And then it was like, oh, how can we make this bigger on the hook, and how do we do these layers, and how do we have this end that is huge and everything, like kind of opens it up to, what else can be. We didn't know the order at the time, but I think now it's perfect because it opens itself up to Erase.
Totally.
And I love how this song ends, and I love just the progression and the cool little weird things we did, like in the second verse, the whoop, 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 and then
just the weird, random.
I like that.
Tried this thing, and then like
it's a garbage. You were like, I need a garbage can.
Okay, wanted to sound like you're banging on like a garbage can.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know why, but like sometimes just,
it is, man.
You hear these things.
Yeah.
I'm remembering more now. Like the riff. I was just sitting there and I was playing around.
I know I didn't get it right.
And you were just like, oh yeah. And so I like refined that, and then basically just record that and then set it on a loop for you to start writing. And then
that's right.
And then I think it was like the drums kind of was playing the finger drums. And then I think once we had kind of the verse chorus, I was like, okay, bass line. And then I got those those nice bass lines going, and then it started to really be clear like what this was gonna be.
Yeah.
And from there, I think it was just like boom,
putting
boom,
all the other
writing stuff, just arranging it out, and kind of like mixing the tones that were cool. But there's so many extra little things that we added after that,
right?
Like the things you were talking about that are just like so big, and like that fun guitar thing at the end. That was like a later idea, or
no, I think we honestly did that all in that same session.
That's wild.
Yeah, man. Both Erase and Let Me Go are like songs that are kind of wild to look back, that we pretty much laid the bones of it all in the first session. With On Paper and Ready to Fall, we came back to those, and those were a little bit of a slower, like over 2-3 sessions, like building everything. But with Erase and Let Me Go, those ones were just like boom, one session, we got the bones. The really cool thing too is, I don't think with the first two, we retracked. I know for a fact we didn't retrack any with Erase. We just let that all be what it was in that first raw session, and maybe there was something with Let Me Go.
I don't even know if there was.
I don't think there was. I think we just nailed it all. And that's like another testament to James, is that because he's a phenomenal like singer and vocal producer, he was able to challenge me to be able to go beyond what I just thought was either good or very good. And he helped me get to great. And without that, you could do that better, or you're a little sharp here, or all those little things that were just tiny details. I don't think that I would have been able to get it to that level, where some of them were hard with Let Me Go and Erase, but you really just helped push me to get there, and we're very encouraging, and I so appreciate that, because these are a little bit different than what I'm used to.
And
it took that
you pushing yourself on those melodies and those high things, but like I knew in my head, I was like, you're gonna crush this, and it's gonna be really,
thanks man,
it's gonna be really cool. And so I'm glad that we spent that extra time like stretching both of our comfort zones to like find something that's just like feels really like unique, but it's kind of like both of our styles infused into
totally
like the stuff that we're making.
Yeah, man, and that's like a beautiful segue into Erase, which is how he kicked everything off. That song for me is just so special. Like I feel like there's always one that I have a certain feeling toward out of each group of 4, and this one I felt so strongly about because it was the first one where we were like, okay, we're like really going after this project and making this EP. But it was also, there was just some magic in there where like watching the behind the scenes back, I hit record the moment he started playing the guitar on that. And at the 8-minute mark of this first video, the main melody was there, the main guitar riff was there, and other ideas were already circulating. I already had a few lines too. What am I supposed to say was like the first thing that came out of my mouth. And you were just like, oh, I know where I kind of want to go on this. And just the way that then we built that out musically together was so sick. And then that was very much a co-write situation where it was like I had this concept and I explained the situation of what I was writing about and how it's like the same thing that Just Upon is about and a handful of my other songs are about. It was like, how do I make peace with this, knowing that it sucks, but I also kind of want to just like erase it out of my mind. And if we didn't meet, what would happen? And then we just expanded on that. And it was really fun to go back and forth with these concepts and the whole like the elixir line. I remember that was actually what we first titled it because I had that elixir line.
Yeah, I still have the version where it's elixir.
Yeah. And so that was like this really powerful line that we then incorporated in the second verse, and something that it was really fun to just build on that with you and have that back and forth. So yeah, man, that was very special. We'll talk more about it, but yeah, like your thoughts on when we were like first diving into that track.
Yeah, that was, I mean, it was fun. I remember the reason why I picked up that guitar in the first place is because you had some ideas of what you wanted to go into this project with. They were still open, but you were like, yeah, here's some references of stuff. And I was like, okay, yeah, cool. Like this isn't stuff I've like done before. Like let's like dive into it. And then I remember the second session you came in and like I had shown you a song I was working on. I think I showed you Little Did I Know.
Oh yeah.
And you were like, you were like, wait a minute,
yes.
Wait a minute, forget everything I sent you. Yeah. What is this? How is there some version of this where like where I can hear myself on? And I was like, I got you. Yeah. So I like pick up the guitar, which is like, this is okay. I'm gonna grab the sauce for the people who don't know. Baritone guitar. This guitar is tuned 4 notes lower than a normal guitar. So it sounds low and like deep, and you get different chords when you play the same voicings. Now this is the secret, the weapon of choice. This little piece of foam that I cut out of some soundproofing, because I am a struggling artist who cannot afford to buy a custom-made guitar with a rubber bridge.
It's real.
Which basically what it does is I shove it in the strings, and it mutes all the strings, so it basically sounds like I'm palm muting it, but in a really cool way, so it stops them from ringing out. So that was the sound that I used on that song. Yeah. And then I remember you were like, that's a really cool sound. So I was like, oh, let me just grab this guy, and then, you know, just start playing the, I don't remember how to play it. Yeah. I haven't played it since we recorded.
Since we wrote it.
I'm like, wait,
so
what is
crazy.
this song on?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, so basically I picked it up and like, if your documentary shows that, that's the first thing that I hit on.
It was, and I instantly was like, yep, love that.
And then from there I was like, cool, let's roll with that.
Yeah.
And pretty much every piece after that, it was just like, you were just like, sounds good, works for me.
Yep.
You know, like usually there's a little bit more of like this, like, let's like find the thing though, but you just were kind of like, the natural inclinations were just the right thing, the energy was just right. So like every kind of thing that we were feeling, just we like followed that thread till the end, and that made it for like a very like natural flowing thing where we didn't really get like stumped on a thing. We just had to let ourselves be creative and such a good build a vibe. But that was interesting, because I was like, oh cool, let me do something more kind of like folkier. I don't know, I will have to watch the thing. I don't know at what point that it turned into this like anthemic thing, because I was like, this is gonna be like a power ballad. Whoa, that's like a nice soft thing. And then at some turning point I was like, this is gonna be this. I don't have no idea when that was.
Well, I think it's
conceptualized, but
from what I remember when I was watching it back, it was when we were laying down the first chorus, you had the idea of like, oh, you know what the next chorus is gonna be? Because the first one was, you know, I wouldn't be so bitter, just in that pocket, and you were like, cool. I'm like, I'm here on the mic, recording that, and then you looked at me, and then you like, you know what the next one is? I wouldn't be so bitter. I said, oh, okay, and so then
bring it up the octave.
Yeah, and then everything else production wise, and I was telling him before we started recording, I have never seen someone MIDI their drums as nasty as this man. Like, it genuinely was so crazy. Like, I kind of had to double take and was watching it, and I was just like, so yeah, all the drums in the song were this insane finger drum MIDI masterpiece that he did in like one take casually. Well, I don't remember, it was one take, whatever. But the point of it was like, you just turn around and and I looked and I was like, huh? And so, yeah, I just like the way that came together, and then how the song moves to that final chorus, and then the way that it continues after the hook, and the, you know, please just stay away, and how that goes at the all of that, I was just like, whoa.
It's epic.
That's the best way to describe it. It's truly, it's an epic song. It's anthemic, like you said, and it kind of proved to me what's possible, not only vocally but sonically as a whole, of the kind of this fusion of alt rock, indie rock, R&B, pop. It's kind of like this melting pot where we just threw all those in one, and we're like, all right, cool, here's a race.
Yeah.
And I the moment I finished that, I remember going home and I was just listening to it back, and I was like, what? And then I said it to a couple of my friends. One of my friends called me, and she was like, yo, how do you feel right now? And I was just like, I feel fucking awesome. And she was like, well, you should, because this is one of like the most insane songs that I've ever heard from you. Like, I can't believe that you just made this. And that was a very similar sentiment from everybody that heard the song. And so just from there, I was like, oh, we got something. And I remember I played it for a few of my other music friends, and I remember them being like, whoa, this is like the type of music that you should make. And I think it's cool because that's happened a few moments in different songs that I've made with different producers, but I think this was one where Jay Cortez in particular, he was just like, when you hear this song back, he's like, this the sound that you want to lean into? Do you want to do more of this? Or is this just like a thing that you were doing? It was like, this is like more of what I want to do. And he was like, okay, cool. Cause I see like major pop artists, you know, on that level of like artists that you like you can hear that here. Mm-hmm. And he was like, this is, you know, it feels like that next level. And I was still just playing them the demo. That's how good it was. And so we dove into some little changes and whatnot, but it really wasn't anything too crazy from what the original was. That was
not
really
arrangement or production.
Yeah.
Just like elevating and adding like the candies. Like, I think both me and you really love the details and like just like the use of space intentionally, but also finding like ways to make the space feel interesting, where you're constantly like on a journey of your ears that's like very supportive of the voice, but also like just kind of like taking you into the world. I think I like that we did that across all 4 songs, where it was like, you can easily get into like an overproduction thing, but I think we're like, oh, we kind of have this cool thing where we're throwing the vocals sometimes, or we're adding these weird noises. Like, what if we kind of make that a cohesive kind of branding on the collection? Yeah, and I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense, and it like the through line of it is kind of those production choices, and it feels very intentional, and it feels very like cool. And yeah, something that's like different, you know, that like
for sure.
I don't know. Yeah, it's the kind of melding of all these different influences.
Yeah, and I think that's what I admired most about your sound for all of your James Julian Villa songs, is like there is this clear direction with like each project, but there's also this very clear, you know, pulling from different influences that I'm like also a fan of. That I was like, wow, like there's not a lot of people who like so many different genres and can bring them together that I know. Like, a lot of my friends kind of have like one lane of what they like to do, and because I'd heard, which is totally fine, but because I'd heard you do so many different things production wise and vocally yourself, I was like, oh, okay, I think we can do something really, really unique and bring a lot of those genres and influences together. And so, yeah, I think we've carved out something really special, even just with the first two. And with the end of Erase, it opens itself now to falling in love again. And that was the whole thing, was like the first two songs of this EP are me feeling the pain and the hurt with that and let me go. And then processing that in Erase and being like, okay, as much as this sucks, and I kind of wonder if we didn't meet and if I didn't go through all this stuff, that, you know, that I wouldn't have to deal with the pain, but it also made me into who I am, and that's okay. And that's created these songs. And I think too, a note that I'll say before we move on from Erase is that a lot of people who know me know that I don't drink. And so the whole wouldn't need the liquor line or drowning in this whiskey and just upon and all these other things, people are like, whoa, this guy clearly has a drinking problem. But it's hilarious because I haven't had alcohol for the last 2 years. And just that, it's all, if you listen back now, knowing that like whiskey is a metaphor for a person, like that's, whiskey is a character, it's a woman. That's what all these songs are about. So anytime there's alcohol references, it's all about a person. So I wouldn't need the liquor was like very much a specific, like I wouldn't need this girl to feel like I'm enough. And that was exactly what the situation was. And so being able to really just bare my soul on that and say that was really powerful and cathartic for me, because it allowed me to kind of put a stamp on that, because it's something that now is, you know, almost 2 years ago. And so I just thank you for opening the space for that, for me to be able to say that stuff really openly and honestly on the record. And then again, to move to the space where now I feel like, okay, I have made peace with that. And I think that record, you know, really first and foremost did that for me. And I know, because of some friends have told me that it's already starting to do the same for other people as well, which is really powerful, man.
Sweet.
Yeah. And then that, fast forward to Ready to Fall, which is now this really cool, first half is very dark, second half is very light, which conceptually I love, was part of this project. And I really just I had a crush on this girl, and I just told James, I was like, hey, so there's this girl that I'm interested in, and I don't even know her, we just have a mutual friend, but I just want to write about it. While I'm feeling this feeling, I want to bottle that in the song and just make it bright and fun and punchy and poppy, and let's make something totally new. And you're like, sick, like let's do it. So I'm curious what your memory was of when we started Ready to Fall, because I think we started with you playing these very bright keys, but I don't remember too much.
Yeah, so like I definitely wanted to like maybe tap back into some of those R&B influences that are like kind of consistent across what you've done before. And like, oh, it's like gonna be a love song, so it's like makes sense to do something like that. So just finding the right keyboard sound that was inspiring, and then doing some fun chords around that. And then I think we knew that like we wanted to like bring it to a bright place, so it was like starting kind of more with the somber chorus of like I'm coming out of this thing, and then the chorus feeling like this really big like opening. So I kind of knew like some direction on like, okay, the chorus gotta feel like we get to this groovy place, but like let's build it there where you're almost not expecting it. And then I think it was a lot of like, I can't remember, I think it was like probably the same thing where chords and then little drum loop, because I like to have like a groove to build off of.
Totally.
So then it was a thing where I grabbed some samples, put them on a keyboard, just and it's like, okay, the bass line is obvious now, because that's where the kick drum is, and picking up the bass and doing the picked thing that's really groovy. And then the piano bits, which I know that were like for you, that's when I knew the direction, because you were like, oh yeah, this is the thing. I was like, okay, cool. I have every idea of like, like let's make it groovy, let's make it fun, let's totally vibey. And then the second verse is cool because we had that little, I think you were like, I need something, and you were like picking up the acoustic and like wanting to add some of that stuff in there.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
And then that's where we're like, we got to tried some of those, I feel like we tried maybe some of the kind of R&B stuff, and it was like, it doesn't really like vibe. And then we landed on this kind of islandy, like almost like a little ukulele thingy. And then very like, oh, like that takes us to this new little place there. So this production's like very fun, and like the instrumental really kind of like feeds into like the exact feeling that you're singing about.
Yeah.
The bright kind of tones and like the kind of catchy vibes.
Yes.
And then just like the
Yeah, I love the chorus gigantic feeling that we put in that song, and the concept of like won't trip but I'm ready to fall. I think maybe one of our kind of maybe a little cheesy but also most clever concepts of these four that like you probably won't catch it like off rip because it's more of just like a vibe feeling like James was saying, but I think that there's something about that idea of like, okay, I'll do my best to play it cool and not trip, but I am at this point now, especially after writing a song like Erase, I am ready to fall in love, that being, and just then having that be this ready to fall, and then how like on the beat then we change what that chorus melody is. You could kiss me like a comet, baby, like that. Just it had this feeling, and I remember us going back and forth. This song again was very co-written, and it took us a while.
I think we
This was I think the longest one.
I think we ended this section with half of it done. That's right. And like, this is great. We have so much stuff. Let's not feel like we had to finish a whole song. Like,
Correct.
It's amazing that we did it 2 times in a row.
Yeah.
But like, hey, we have the vibe. It's not like that we don't have something. It's
Yes.
just we don't know where the lyrics should go or how to end it. So like, we took like the break from it that we needed, then came back to it. But like, you pretty much when we came back to it, you had like all of these lyrical things, and we pretty much just sat down for like an hour and just like finished the song, and then waited more like elevating the vibe to just be like huge, and all those harmony stacks and the big fuzzy guitar at the end. That was like one of the last things I think. I was like, you know what this needs?
Yeah, just the
big fuzzy things, and so this one, it felt like it took a little longer, but it was like still only 2 sessions.
Yeah, for real.
To like get through the meat of everything and then feel like really good about it.
What's really special about all 4 of these is we made a race on December 15th. And we recorded the next track, which we'll get into, on paper on January 6th. And so in the span of less than a month, we had the bones of our 4 ready. And so I think that was really cool because we made Ready to Fall right after Christmas. I got home. The day I got back to Portland from the holiday, I came over here and we wrote that. And so that happened right before New Year's. Boom, New Year's. A week later, get back in here. And then the same thing happened for On Paper was, I was like, okay, I still haven't met this girl, but on paper, we're perfect. We're perfect together. So I just explained the concept to James. I was just like, okay, that is where I want to take that. And I've had that title idea saved in my notes for a while. And then this was a perfect moment to use it because how I was feeling emotionally at the time. I was still so like, wow, what could happen with this girl? And so let me just, before I even try to hit her up or ask my friend about her or anything, let's capture this moment. And we did, again, with On Paper. And this narratively, I think, might be one of the most unique because it does take you on this arc of like, okay, my friends are like, you haven't met anybody yet, but I've heard about somebody that maybe you would be interested in. And that is now all hypothetical at the beginning. And then in the middle of the song, it's like, okay, here's the dream situation and what it could be like, and this is all magical, we're in love, boom, boom, boom. And then it brings it back to reality at the end of like, okay, I could think about these hypothetical situations or this, that, or the other, but I should probably just talk to you so that this either could happen or not. And yeah, like that narratively, this was one that we had to take a little bit more time on writing wise, is what we were really churning on this back and forth and like just pushing each other to get a better line, get a better thing, get a better hook and all that stuff. But I'm like, that was exactly how it was supposed to go. And I'm glad that we spent a little extra time on that. And that is mostly lyrically of kind of what I just talked about in the narrative of it, but curious of your perspective on how we went about writing that song and then how we went about making that as well. How did you
remember starting the production, it was like, okay, back to the guitar, but what if it was acoustic? It's always like switching up the instrument can like help not try to do the same thing again, but also like switch up the approach And then I think the guitar just happened to be in an open tuning from the client before.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait, let's leave it there. Let's cook. Let's see what happens with this thing. And then I think it was like one of the first couple of things once again that you were just like, ooh, okay, gonna follow that.
Let's go.
Thread. And then I heard the chords and like made it, and then like double tracked the acoustics, and then you basically put it on loop while we're writing.
Yeah.
And me kind of thinking of the concepts of like where to take the production as you were doing it, just getting those little textures in there, and then it was just over and over like, oh, we gotta find the way to make this on paper work. I think like before we even had like the most of the words, it was just like we landed on that on paper, and I was like, I don't know what happened, but we were like, this is the thing.
Yes.
It just needs to be on paper, something on paper, really like get that in there. And so like a lot of that was just like, okay, we know what this is gonna be, but then the lyrics were just like okay, this is not a cheesy love song, and we also don't want to come off as like too much, like you know, like coming on too strong.
Yeah,
okay.
And that's another thing too. You did an excellent job of making sure that I wasn't in like creepo mode, because I'm just gonna write the first thing off the top of my head, and then there were some things where I wrote and I was like, I think that's great, and then James was like, it's like a little much, and I was like, that's good. Somebody keeping me in check so I don't scare this woman. And that was great because then it made it so that it was still specific to my experience and what I wanted to say, but also a little bit more general that almost anybody could say it.
Yeah.
About their story of like the person that they think that they'd be perfect with on paper.
Yeah, I think it works really well as like you're able to put yourself in that position and have anyone be the character where it's like, yeah, just specific enough but general enough to be relatable, that you're not like, oh, this is very specific to whatever this guy was going through.
Right. Well, and I think those are those pop qualities that this song and a lot of what we've made has, that they're specific enough, but they're also like these kind of just will always be true concepts that we were able to infuse into this experience of what each of these songs says. And with this one especially, it's really interesting because narratively it has this through thread, but we had this idea. There was a couple of references that I played that it was like, okay, there's gentle, but then huge production. And how do we bring that into this? And I think that's when this got really cool, because it starts and it's like, oh, this is a nice little indie folk song. And then right after that first on paper, then it's just, and then it was like so crazy. So
I remember, I want to see that clip back because I remember being like, okay, I'm gonna look crazy for like 40 minutes, but by the time I'm done, you're gonna be like, oh shit. No, it's one of those things that as a producer, like I know what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
So that without the full context of everything I'm trying to do, it's gonna sound so whack.
Yeah.
So it was like, and you were just like, I trust you. I know it's gonna work. So
totally
just let me, but like I knew like I wanted it to be this big thing, but not just that, but I wanted to do like almost an EDM like drop.
Yeah.
But with electric guitars.
Yes.
Where it's just like this. Wah, 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 wah. And I was like, I don't know why, but like that's gonna go so hard.
Yeah.
And then I know the thing that kind of like solidified that really working was like, let's also throw in this big stack of your vocals. So it's not just this like synthetic kind of thing, but it's like, no, this is like, still has the heart of you.
Yes.
Kind of in there. So this becomes this big, and then after that, I was like, okay, this idea is actually gonna work.
Yeah.
And up until then, I was like, I have no idea, but I think this is the thing. A lot of production is chasing that feeling of like, this could be dumb,
Right.
It could be the best thing you've ever heard.
Dude, and that's what I loved about, I don't remember all the parts of the footage, but there's this one moment where you were playing the first kind of initial synths on the keys, and you were like, okay, this is gonna be weird, trust the vision. And you were like,
Julian fellow.
You were back and forth just playing stuff, and I was kind of just sitting there, and I'm like, bro, I trust the vision. I completely trust the vision. And then when I started to see it come together as like this in-between little quick 4-bar instrumental thing that kind of just catches you by surprise right after this really gentle on paper, and then all of a sudden it just comes in. It's like a little preview of what's to come. And then the second verse kicks it up a notch with all the other production elements that we added into it, kind of bringing this fullness and some of the other elements of like the drum and bass and other things that are now in that second verse to give it that momentum. And then melody structure changed a little bit as well. Same thing with the harmonies. The you want the world, I'll take you there.
Yeah.
All of that stuff was
evolving.
was really cool, and then especially how we layered those harmonies. And then when that second chorus comes in, as soon as we knew, it was the same feeling like a race, where we knew when we were like, okay, second chorus, we got to turn it up a notch. Same thing. Okay, second on paper round, we got to turn it up a notch. On paper, and then like that just opened it up to everything we wanted to do production-wise, and bringing it all into this like magical, hypothetical, we're super in love scenario, and then bringing it all the way back into this very intimate space at the end of like, okay, that's the dream. And basically, you just woke up from the dream.
Yeah.
And now I'm just stating the reality of the situation, and I should probably talk to this girl and actually, see where it goes. And so that, like, cover to cover of these 4 is, I think, just a really beautiful way to look at getting your heart broken, making peace with it, opening yourself up to falling in love again, and regardless of what the outcome might be, enjoying the feelings that come along with that.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, we just captured that in such a unique way, where every song has its own really distinct, unique qualities, but there's such a through thread in the production choices, in the way that we did certain, vocal production choices and melodic choices as well, that through all these, it feels like we've really carved out a very unique sound together. And I'm so looking forward to more songs that we're going to continue to make. And
oh my gosh.
In the context of this year, it's a really cool way of continuing the momentum, and going from the songs with Nick that start to lean into some rock and band elements, and then here where we crank it up a notch, and then to go from ours then into Sal and the band that'll follow these, is the really beautiful progression. And so I'm so glad we were able to get it all made in the time that we did, because now it's able to go in that progression, which I think is just a beautiful way to go on this year. And once again, this is now just these 4 is like a taste of what that James and Djemini sound is.
Yeah.
So that as we eventually get to making a full album together, that, okay, cool, people like that, great. Now we get to crank that up a notch on its own in the whole concept of an album. And I know that just with everything we wrote together here, and with everything that we made together and brought out of each other musically, and that's going to be really phenomenal. And until then, these 4 are songs that I feel like I can stand on forever, and songs that I am just extremely proud of. And so just thank you once again for your insane production wizardry, and for believing in me and helping to really bring out the best in me, man, because it was truly a pleasure making these, and how quick we made them, and how we were truly, like able to elevate what we thought that this could be to a place that went further than I think that you and I thought going in. And now that we've proven that to ourselves, I'm just full of gratitude and very excited for what the future holds for us.
Me too, man.
Yeah. Sweet. Any final notes before we wrap up on your end?
Man, I'm super proud of these songs. Like I feel as like attached to them as like my own music. Wow. I know it's like this is like one of the more collaborative processes that I've been a part of. A lot of times I'm working off of like at least a half a song, and then like helping it get there. But like coming in with nothing is like always like, you might come out with nothing too. Like that's how it works, But like coming in with nothing and then making like these songs is like, whoa, just like, it's like a fever dream almost. Like I listen to them like in the car, and I'm like, I'm able to have like the out of artist experience that you very rarely get, of like, you're always kind of listening critically to yourself and the way you play, the way you sing, the way you write, and you're just having to kind of work hard to separate yourself and enjoy it again after the first few listens. But I feel like through this process, it's been a lot more of like, holy shit, we did that. And like, if someone else did that, I would be like fucking with them heavily and being like, how do I do that?
Right.
And now this is one of those situations where I'm like, how did I do that? I don't even know.
So
because it just feels very much like these songs feel really like special and like well written, and they also, the fact that they came out of such like natural chemistry of like we've never even made a song together,
Right.
ever.
Yeah.
You know, and like this stuff. This is what we made. I'm super proud of these songs. I'm super excited to do more because like after these 4, I'm like, we're not gonna not do, because if we can do 4 songs like this, like
In less than a month.
if we did 10 songs, like oh my gosh. So like yeah, I'm
Get ready.
looking forward to continuing to do this stuff, and I'm
too,
really
brother.
happy that you asked me to be a part of this project, because like from the get-go I was like, I hope I get asked because this stuff looks awesome. This concept that you're doing is super cool and super inspiring.
Thanks, man.
And I think like we could all stand for being a little less precious and do a little more creating and collaborating and sharing of music.
Absolutely. Wow. I couldn't have wrapped this up in a better way, my friend. Thank you once again. And I think I'll just end it there. And that's episode 3 of the 5225 podcast, where we're dropping 52 records in 52 weeks this year. There's 13 producers. James is the 3rd one. And we've got these 4 songs together that I, again, am extremely proud of. And so we appreciate you joining us to relive these songs with us and hear a little bit of the backstory of how they came to life. And we're so excited that they're yours. So enjoy them, and yeah, we look forward to sharing more music with you throughout the year. And then as we get to making more music together, it's going to be really fun to share that with you. So thanks again for watching and listening to the songs. It means a lot. Take care.
And now it's time for tacos.
Oh, save me a piece of that corn for later.
Talking to you. Hey,
Summon your eagle powers.
what do you think I'm doing? Oh my God.